thing we don't have Kian here to edit that into an awkward silence moment, like we did with Back to the Future.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's this sound kind of like that I'm hearing while you clean up your desktop. It's like the machine in the woods doing weird things.
Sorry, didn't mean to alarm you.
I just want to make sure you're okay because you're kind of in a lost, like, tropical setting.
That's true. It's my desktop.
Nice. Okay, so actually, you know what's funny? We thought we had a bug, but now that I look at Discover, Feb 9th lunch break is up at the top, live now.
Oh, okay. Maybe
I think what happened is the time had passed when it was meant to start.
Mm-hmm.
So it was removed from Discover, but it had not actually been started. And now that it started, it can actually live on Discover. So there's probably a state issue we just want to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like Modi came and visited, but then he left.
Yeah.
Cool. So the business of the day is mangoes will be eaten, tweets will be tweetened.
Nice.
Which is we've run out of mangoes mostly. I mean, I'm on my last. I actually have fresh mangoes today, but we've run out of them, so we have to go grocery shopping.
Yeah.
How is the fresh fruit scene over by you these days?
I should go to a farmer's market and check it out. Everything is really expensive here. Like a grocery bill is almost double the price that it.
Is that right?
Yeah, just like for the same stuff.
Are you able to find like a major, like a Whole Foods type thing, or is it?
Yeah, we just went to Safeway, not even Whole Foods.
Oh,
but
Safeway, but it's double the cost of like mainland. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, haven't gone wild, but just picked up like bananas so far. So we'll have to check out the farmers markets and see the scene.
Right. Have you had any Amazon Prime deliveries yet?
Mm-mm. Oh, actually, I have. I ordered a yoga mat, and it came.
Was it like 2 days, or?
Yeah.
I heard it can sometimes be longer, or like they don't commit to the 2-day thing they do in the mainland.
Oh, really? It came within like a couple of days. I don't know if it was 2 exactly, but it wasn't a big deal.
Cool. All right. Do you want to pop over to Twitter?
Yeah.
Shall we do the usual? Okay.
It's a really funny one at the top of my feed. Oh my god.
Is it the Elad?
No, it's the Sahil one where he's like, Clubhouse is greater than bars, Clubhouse is greater than dinner parties, Clubhouse is greater than our house parties. And so that feeling when you've never been to a party.
Did you share it?
1 second, Will. Just a gentle roast.
I will have a party for you, Sahil.
I'm sorry, DK, but no matter how fun we make highlighter, I think I'll still enjoy parties in real life.
Still enjoy parties. There was this one somebody shared with me this morning, and I found it really funny, though it's like slightly off color, but hopefully not too offensive.
That's amazing. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Okay. A lawyer using Zoom had to let a judge know that he
I
wasn't a
saw
cat
that.
after inadvertently activating a face filter.
Oh my god, you need to watch that video. I saw that earlier. It was so funny.
I'm like watching it go by. I guess, is it better with the audio on? 'Cause I'm
Yeah,
not
you need
listening to
the audio. You need the audio.
This is ridiculous. Oh my god. He doesn't know how to remove the filter.
It's like, I'm aware you're not a cat.
I am here live. I'm not a cat.
Cute.
You know David Rothkopf?
No.
He
Is he the one who tweeted that?
no, he hosts he's kind of a political commentator, columnist, journalist type. Jen used to work with him, which is how I know him, but he's very, very active on Twitter. But he had a funny take on it. He says, breaking, lawyer cat joins Trump defense team in impeachment trial. Lawyer cat is so obviously going to be a meme now.
Yeah. The best part, he said something like, I was here with my assistant setting this up, and like, I'm prepared to move forward like this if we need to.
Oh, wow. Wait, is this is a different thing. I'm seeing not a great start. Former President Trump's defense lawyer Bruce Castor introduces himself as the lead prosecutor before laughing and correcting himself.
Oh, I didn't see that. What is that?
I assume that's not what that Zoom video is, right? This is...
Mm-mm.
The tweet I shared is from Kenneth P. Vogel, who is identified in his bio as at New York Times. So it sounds like... Are they doing kind of a... Are they in the middle of prosecution now on Trump storming the Capitol?
Yeah, this week is going to be... Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so it sounds like the guy who is responsible for defending him is coming out, accidentally introducing himself as lead prosecutor.
Nice.
Okay, here's... I don't know if you've been following Starlink. Sorry, I'm just like fast with the topics here. Did you see the announcement around Starlink?
No, I didn't.
It's so Starlink, is this kind of, maybe call it like the first application on the SpaceX platform.
Yeah.
Is maybe, I don't know, that's maybe a curt way to describe it, but that's just how I think about it, not knowing too much else. But I think they're trying to create kind of internet availability, low latency broadband internet systems to meet the needs of consumers across the globe. And you can actually order it now. And that was the tweet I just shared with somebody ordering it.
Right.
And I thought there was actually a pretty interesting back and forth that Elon Musk jumped in on, because this guy that I shared the tweet from, he said, hopefully the price comes down for us Canadians soon, though. And I think it actually is, like most, it's almost like a common technology pattern that I think is misunderstood, that Elon Musk is handling, fairly reasonably here. Where he says it's meant to be the same price in all countries, only difference should be taxes and shipping. And then somebody comes in and says, I beseech you to offer Starlink at a lower price in some developing countries, considering that they may not be able to afford the services. And then he says SpaceX needs to pass through a deep chasm of negative cash flow over the next year or so to make Starlink financially viable. Every new satellite constellation in history has gone bankrupt. We hope to be the first that does not. Starlink is a staggeringly difficult technical and economic endeavor. However, if we don't fail, the cost to end users will improve every year.
Where was that exchange? Oh, did you put?
That was, yeah, I linked a tweet. Let me make sure this is the one. Oh, I didn't link it, sorry. Uh-oh. Did it go? Yeah, you got the one Adam Klotz
Yeah, I
underscore.
see it now.
And when I visit that route, it kind of unrolls the rest of it. But I think this is like a somewhat commonly misunderstood characteristic of technology, which is, in this case, I think Starlink is, I don't know the specific pricing, but I think it's probably priced as more of a high-end product and is not accessible yet. But the early adopters, in a sense, like overpay or subsidize. I mean, it's not even overpay, but subsidize some of the upfront R&D that enables the thing to get to a bigger scale and operate more efficiently, so that it can scale and drop the price over time.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like a lot of kind of anti-tech narrative that suggests that tech is meant, kind of people are building it to be exclusionary or not kind of taking a global perspective. And I think he, pretty deftly handles that concern, I would say.
Yeah.
Because it's especially this kind of, capital intensive project, it's just super at risk of not getting out alive.
Right.
Okay, I don't have to share my Dairy Queen ad with ranch chicken strips.
I'm also getting those. I'm like, what about my internet browsing makes you think that I'm interested in reading this?
Seriously, I don't think there's a Dairy Queen like within 20 miles of me anyway. So are we gonna get fast food? Are we gonna drive like
It's
50 miles to get fast food?
overflow or something?
I mean, when I see stuff like this, it's what makes me think, like our discussion yesterday around the Packy hypothesis, like these ads just don't make any sense. These are,
Yeah, who
well
clicked them?
targeted.
Like the last thing I ordered is vegan vitamin D tablets, and they're showing me like chicken strips.
Like you look like a good candidate to buy chicken strips.
Yeah.
Are there Dairy Queens even by you? I don't even know. Wouldn't surprise me if there are no Dairy Queens there.
Yeah.
Do you know this guy Brian Romele?
No.
I don't know what context I know him from. I think I oftentimes get my followings from just somebody will mention a list and I trust that person. But he had a nice picture of a treehouse.
Huh.
It reminds me of have you ever seen this site Cabin Porn? Kind of has Zach Klein is the creator of the site, and it has a bunch of like kind of rustic cabins and different, sort of out rural country living.
Oh yeah, these are great. I've seen them for van life as well.
Oh yeah.
Which like you can rent vans here to stay in, just parked vans, for like more than what my Airbnb costs right now. It's like multiple thousands of dollars per month.
Wow. To live in a van.
Yeah.
And does it come with like hookups? Like you're in a space you can stay, or you need to then take the van and drive it somewhere?
Well, I think the ones I saw were literally just parked. Like you would have to figure out everything else for yourself. I mean, it's a tiny van, but it's kind of funny. There are vans on the north shore of Oahu where you can pay more than $2,000 a month to stay there.
Wow. Are they pretty busy, or do they get occupied?
I have no idea. Definitely a trend right now. I saw
Have
this.
you ever seen? Oh, go ahead.
I saw this on my feed and I thought it was kind of intriguing, but I haven't read it yet.
Spoonbill, an app that tracks Twitter profile changes. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a yeah. I think that's a very interesting idea. I feel like some people. I think there are other little tools that people have used over the years because I do notice. I do notice people who tweet about other people's bio updates,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always wondered. I
How do
mean,
they know?
I imagine they can't be manually trying to track all these.
Yeah.
I think there was a funny one recently, or I don't know if it's funny, but I think it was one of the creators of Robinhood had his Twitter bio previous to the big blow up said something like, people often list their, the significant other or, as like partners in crime with, and then mention them. And he updated his bio so it did not say partners in crime and didn't identify him as a criminal. Because you could just imagine, like, the judge at a deposition, or the lawyer at a deposition, the opposing lawyer saying, like,
Oh my
did you
God.
or did you not have your bio publicly identify you as a criminal?
Oh my God. The lawyer cat.
Lawyer cat. Creeping as a service. Is Spoonbill, has that been around for a while?
I have no idea. Do you want to take a look at this?
Yeah. So you want to read Creeping as a Service, the post?
Yeah. Should I do a Google Doc version or do you want to just read it?
Up to you.
Here, I'll do Google Doc just to play.
I think my chat. Did you share it already in chat?
No, I haven't. I'm
Okay.
just making the doc.
Okay, no worries. I was worried that maybe my chats I was sending were not going through when I sent them. I just wanted to see if I missed something. And while you're doing that, I will share another thing I was reminded of when you're talking about the driving, the kind of like living in a van.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really cool road trip, the North American road trip that keeps you in 70-degree weather all year. So they plotted out this
ideal
path.
For you.
What's it?
Ideal for you.
Yeah.
Escaping the cold wherever you went.
So it's cool. There's like a path that it starts kind of like, call it, I don't know where, January 1st. It's at kind of South Padre, I think, right by the southern tip of Texas. It kind of drives up and around and goes out to like the eastern seaboard and through Chicago. By June, it's up in like Wisconsin. And then by July, it gets up into Alaska and does a loop and comes back around. And then down to Seattle, Portland in August, September, through kind of the Midwest or kind of middle of the country, October 1st. November, it's New Mexico. And then December, you're over in California, that kind of in the southern part of California.
Nice.
It's a very cool. clever data analysis planning tool.
Did you link in chat?
I did, yeah. So matadornetwork.com. Did that show up for you or no?
Mm-mm.
See, I think there is a problem.
Some sort of delayed. Maybe if
I think
I
it'll
refresh or if I post something new.
Yeah, or maybe like it. So right now I see your archive. You said you do see it now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so creeping as a service. 37 pages. What's a budgie smuggler?
What's up?
I'm reading this piece you posted, and he's talking about different versions of the bio that Elon Musk used. One is budgie smuggler. What is that? Is that it's an Australian term?
What's a budgie?
It's like a male Speedos, I guess. Check out Will. It looks like he's smuggling budgies in there. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Elon Musk. Okay. Former CEO of Dogecoin. Budgie Smuggler was created July 6th at 9:56 a.m. and then it was removed July 9th, so it only lasted 3 days.
Oh man, he had enough budgies by then. Huh, interesting.
What do you think Mr. Beast is doing with those?
The numbers?
Those numbers? Is that like a verification? You know, like the bank deposits?
I'm not sure.
I wonder if he's trying to verify his identity to somebody. Like kind of a challenge response like they do in sometimes if you're linking a bank account, they'll say we deposited 2 sub $1 deposits and tell us what those 2 deposits are worth. And one is 42 cents, another is 78 cents. But you can kind of verify that you control the account or at least have access to view the account by being able to represent that information. I wonder if that's what he's doing with the 6969420.
Mm. Useful for journalists. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it says, I asked Hunter Walk, a partner at the seed stage venture capital firm Homebrew and an avid spoon biller, why he uses the app. So I think it's maybe through Hunter, which I've seen him comment about people's bio changes before. So that might be why I was familiar with it. I didn't know the name of the app, but I feel like I've seen Hunter mention things about bio changes.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me a bit of, when Facebook first launched the newsfeed, everybody was like up in arms. It was like, it was all this data that was visible. You could navigate profile to profile and see any of it and see it one day and see it the next day, but there was no place to kind of like aggregate, see all of the changes. So effectively, like newsfeed in Facebook world is that. And here, like Twitter doesn't have, Twitter only shows you kind of content created in a tweet, doesn't show like other changes in the platform. So it's kind of like a missing feature in a sense.
Right. I think for like bio type stuff on Facebook, you can control whether, and LinkedIn as well, right? You can control whether other people see it or not.
Yeah, I think you can control
like whether it's pop up on someone's feed. I mean,
right. I think those are newer features though. Like probably 10 years ago, I think they didn't have such things. So they were just like, I think people would be afraid to change something on LinkedIn because it would automatically broadcast and you couldn't contain it. So I think they added features to allow that. Look at Shervin changing his angel investment list there.
Oh, where is that? Oh wow. To add stuff.
Hyperloop, Bolt, Stara, Webs, WebOS, Jam City, Sherpa Memo, and then he took out Robinhood, Q, GoPuff. He headed or rearranged Uber. Added Curology. Or no, that was there before. It was just at the line break. So yeah, is it? I guess Hunter was suggesting that people would do this in part to reorder, maybe a portfolio based on success or kind of like what they want to emphasize.
Yeah.
So does Spoonbill track this stuff for everybody for all time? Or is it just like when you link your Spoonbill, then it starts giving you a feed from them?
I think it's everybody all the time.
So I could actually go into Spoonbill and see my own history.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think so.
Okay. I want to see that now. But yeah, I shouldn't even need to link my Twitter.
The sheer number of firms and investors who removed things mentioning WeWork. There was a period of time you didn't want your name associated with WeWork.
Right.
Spoonbill always knows.
Wow, it's kind of hard to find this service if I'm searching. Oh, spoonbill.io. There's like a bird called a spoonbill that kind of owns SEO in that category.
Black
or maybe
Lives
Google's
Matter
personalized.
and going.
What's it?
Black Lives Matter coming and going. Presidential endorsements coming and going.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So this works across Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and other places?
Oh, does it?
I don't know. This is talking about social apps that make creepers, scrolling. It's talking about Twitter is interesting. Observation ground for online identity. Snapshots at Big Sur are meant for Instagram's photogenic feed, while professional milestones belong on LinkedIn's alternate universe. So yeah, I don't know if it kind of suggests that there's different places where you'd update or express different ideas. And yeah, I'm not sure if the tool does that, but it kind of suggests that if you're if you were the PM for Spoonbill, wouldn't you want to extend the feature set to include more things that are not on the single platform you started on?
Yeah, like what is the PM for? What does the head PM for Spoonbill want? What is the aim here?
I'm going to say to be
like
loved.
A fun side project, or is this actually supposed to become a thing?
I don't know. Actually, I'm curious now. What is this all about? Is it like a commercial service?
Twitter or Product Hunt accounts.
We're tracking 10 million accounts. Spoonbill is a trademark of Village Blacksmith LLC, made with love in rainy Seattle. Justin Duke is the creator of Spoonbill, it appears, from the link at the bottom. This site is deprecated. I spend my time writing over at Arcana Computer instead.
Okay, so he works at Stripe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, so it's like a fun side project kind of thing.
But if he's tracking 10 million accounts with 30 million changes, I can't imagine there's enough infrastructure and stuff that may break from time to time that it's more than just set it and forget it. I don't know. Because he would be So you have to connect a Twitter account to see these? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
See tweets, set your Twitter profile information, see accounts you follow. Okay, I'm authorizing the app right now. Going down the rabbit hole.
You'll
Can't
have
help
some
myself.
power.
Nothing matches your filter. Okay, what's my filter? Networks. So showing all changes. Name changes, bio changes. I don't feel like I'm using this the right way. Daily emails sent to my email. Yeah, so I think there is no... I think I just set it and then I go away and then I get an email every day maybe. But
Oh, you
it
can't.
doesn't...
But then how are these people scrolling back through time?
I think they've been using it for years. So probably like Spoonbill probably has historical information on me, but it's not showing me that. That's only in like the view of people who have been Spoonbill users for.
Oh, okay. So it only starts reporting back to you when you kind of click start.
I don't know. I'm guessing. It looks. I mean, because right now when I open the screen, it's just empty.
Yeah. How do you think people should feel about something like this?
Well,
it is definitely, well, I don't know. It's like entertaining and kind of like funny to like troll other people based on their bio updates and stuff.
right.
I could see it being important for journalists and things like that.
Yeah,
But
I think we're still not really, probably aware enough about the distinction between public and private. And there's this phrase that always sits in my mind, which is like, once you've done something publicly on the internet, there's no way to contain it. You can't like take it back or undo.
Yeah.
And I think about that idea a lot, and I think this is like an example of that kind of thing. Like if you tweet something and then you delete the tweet, it could have gotten syndicated into other readers and copied and stored in archives and stuff.
Yeah.
So it could, you could, hear the idea and kind of be surprised, but I almost feel like we should all collectively expect that that's how this system and network and publishing works. And I think rather than be like, I don't know, frustrated or angry at the fact that a service is exposing the fact that this stuff exists, I think we just get more comfortable with what we're doing in public and what we're doing in semi-private or private,
Right.
and just make sure that we're kind of, we have good hygiene around where we're making changes and what we're saying.
Yeah, like being more aware of basically the purview of what you post kind of being accessible to other people, but then also probably just, I mean, not taking so much stock. Like it's okay if you change your Twitter bio. Everyone changes their Twitter bio in like in silly ways, and you might want to emphasize different things at different times and whatever it is. So maybe there's something to like the more overloaded we get with data and like access to data about different people, almost the less significant any of it starts to become. So just be kind of yourself and don't overthink how you're using these platforms, but definitely with the awareness that anything you do can be searched and kind of pointed out later.
Right. Yeah, I think I would hope, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's the optimist in me, but I would hope that it like helps people just like not, kind of try to be their best selves. Is like more encouragement to try to always be your best self or try to keep improving. Instead of seeing it, in a sense, things, if we can do it, if the internet supports the ability to do it, it probably will get done in some way. So rather than like try to regulate or contain or create norms against it, I think maybe it's better to just embrace it, and hopefully we can collectively shift and shape behaviors and attitudes so that we understand it, we expect it, it's okay, it's kind of like, it's just part of the culture.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me, I've never read this book, but there's this book that was pretty famous. I think it was written like 20 years ago. I think it was called The Surveillance Society. And when I search this, I get this Wired article, which is 2001, so very long time ago, 19 years ago, basically. It was December of 2001. So it says, The Surveillance Society, the new rules of engagement, cell phones that pinpoint your location, as if that's like a sci-fi concept, cameras that track your every move, which every self-driving car has, subway cards that remember, like any modern subway, metro transit system.
Yeah.
We routinely sacrifice privacy for convenience and security, so stop worrying and get ready for your close-up. Within hours of the attacks, the World Trade Center and the Pentagon has federal officials shut, and then it goes on and on. So, I think Wired was taking a fairly reasonable, the kind of saying, these things are part of the future, and in a sense now we could say they're part of society or part of the past.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of make the argument. I haven't reread the article recently, but I remember seeing it a long time ago. But I think they kind of make the point that, David Brin is the author of this book, The Transparent Society. He postulates a Moore's law of cameras, which is funny to hear that was said in 2001. Cameras are mounted on police cars. They hang from trees in public parks. They're fixed to the walls in sports stadiums and shopping malls. So, like,
it's like, yep.
Yep, that's how the world works now. And that kind of is only like probably describing 10% of the cameras in the world. Like most of the cameras are on the, in the pockets of every human on Earth.
Yeah.
But they I think they sort of took the existing ideas and sort of layered them on. But as, demand for cameras and smaller cameras and better cameras, I think mobile phones and internet connected cameras have caused more demand for for faster evolution in camera technology and, faster, better, cheaper in all respects. So it seems like pretty clear. I mean, you look, cameras are mounted on police cars is something that this author is saying 19 years ago. And it's not just police cars, it's like every car or, many cars these days have even this phenomenon. I don't know if it's particularly Russia centric, but I believe it's very common in Russia for everybody to drive with a dash cam. Like it's not just like a fancy high end car feature like it might be considered in the US, but it's, I think, like you wouldn't go driving unless you have a dash cam, because I think it has something to do with the way, maybe it's how, accidents are resolved or something. I'm not sure how the court system works, but it's basically everybody on the road has these. And so you see like all these YouTube videos of, actually, do you remember when that asteroid hit?
No.
Oh, there was like an asteroid that hit, I want to say 2013 or so. Chelyabinsk event. I think this was it. But like, I think some of the best footage was taken from dash cams of people who happened to be, driving around at the time.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to see if I can find. Okay, yeah, I guess I should say a meteor hits Russia. Okay, here it is. Wow, it's it's not an asteroid, it's a meteor, but wow, look at that. Right across the
Did you
sky
post
in
it?
front of them.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
posted it.
Whoa. That's crazy. Huh. Wow.
So yeah, I think to kind of pop the stack on that, I think looking at this Wired article, we can see what was, and I'd say Wired is typically like kind of a forward thinking, well reasoned, non alarmist, high quality journalistic work on technology in the future, and they sort of kind of have the right sensibility about where this is going, but 19 years later, it's just it's more explanatory of a time that passed or kind of already occurred
Yeah.
versus particularly futuristic. And I think that's kind of how something like Spoonbill, I think we just need to be comfortable that everybody's going to be able to see the stuff you do in public. And so just, be your best self in public and, make sure that you're sort of sharing in the ways that you're comfortable with, that you're okay being associated with.
Yeah. I wonder who, if anyone, is kind of on the unintended consequence end of that. Like, are there people who, I guess the first thing is you need to know that all of this is accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know, then you're not necessarily like making the choice to share
Right.
so quickly because you're just not aware. But are there other layers that, yeah, I mean, once you know, is it all fair game, or are there things that we should kind of consider, kinds of people that, or yeah, like professions or people that might be
Mm-hmm.
more susceptible to like being targeted in a bad way because of some of this increased surveillance type stuff?
Right. Yeah, I'm sure there's tons of cases like that, and I think a misunderstanding of privacy is probably pretty prevalent in the world. Like probably just I think a lot of people don't necessarily have an understanding of some of the core pieces of how the internet works and how scripts like this observe what's happening on the internet. So it does seem like we're I think there's like almost like an education issue, kind of a privacy, personal, identity education issue that I would hope people can just get more knowledgeable about over time. And I think we're on a trend towards that, but I think probably more faster is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm sure there are people that are, there's cases where, people's identity gets revealed or some personal information gets revealed that, that they wouldn't want revealed, and that, they might inadvertently reveal or somebody else might inadvertently reveal on their behalf. And that, we don't have ways to contain those things. So yeah, I wouldn't propose that it's like, I wouldn't call it like a societal good that it works like this. I would just say it is that way, and it seems like it's hard to kind of, catch use cases to manage them better. So I think we need to manage like maybe, in the cases if there are certain professions that, might be more targeted. I think maybe you have to decide if you have to decide what your relationship is with technology in those cases. Maybe actually having GPS on your phone is a bad idea. Like, maybe GPS on your phone only works if you otherwise are untargeted or otherwise have. But if you're at any kind of in certain risk categories or groups, maybe you want to,
right,
be more careful about.
Yeah, it's all intertwined because it's difficult to ascertain whether you're like in one of those risk categories or groups necessarily
Yep.
until you are, and then it's too late.
Yep. Right. But I do think like some of this stuff, I do think there's pros and cons to everything. It's just like, we're we're moving through the world and reshaping it. But I think a lot of the way, say like governments serve people, I think should be under more, scrutiny and transparency, and should have more visibility to the citizenry that are served. I think we see like early examples of this with, every time there's some confrontation, say with the police, there's like, dozens of cameras now on it, making sure that there's transparency and visibility into what's going on. And I'm sure that's, stressful for probably lots of people involved, but I think it just like changes the equilibrium for how those relationships work. And it's, I wouldn't call it all good or all bad, but I think it changes that equilibrium. Mm-hmm. And I think we just need to get comfortable that those tools are available. They're cheap. They're easy. They actually provide greater transparency to make sure that the work that is being done on behalf of a citizenry is done compliant with how, with the expectations of how we organize ourselves.
Yeah.
There's a comment I recall from that book, or maybe somebody had shared a passage with me before, but the Surveillance Society book, where they kind of have this concept of who will watch the watcher. And right, there's
throwback
people. What's that?
Yeah. Quis custodies custodiet. It's like an ancient Roman phrase, even.
Oh, that's the origin of it? Is from?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh.
Actually, I wonder when that was first said.
I'm gonna look that up now. Yeah. The title is related to the phrase "Quis custodiet ipsos custodes," mm-hmm. Latin phrase from the Roman treatise Satires of Juvenal, written around AD 100, variously translated as "Who watches the watchmen? Who watches the watchers? Who will guard the guards?" Yeah. Actually, yeah, it's funny. I think I mentioned my insomnia and recent attempt to educate myself on the Star Trek ecosystem. Did I mention that before?
No.
Oh. So I kind of grew up we were kind of a Star Wars family, and I had never really had any exposure to Star Trek. And I'm, wake up and have the best chance of falling asleep if I turn something on like Netflix. So I've been making my way through some Star Trek episodes, actually informed by. I've got a bookmark of this. I didn't mention this one before. So Lee Edwards. Do you know that guy?
Mm-mm.
He's a pretty good follow. I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember how I heard about him or exactly what his thing is. He does like venture seed stuff, but Nabil, who we had on before, was asking, time for optimistic sci-fi future enablement. Need to get my kids Star Trek exposure, but where to start? The original series is unlikely to hook them. Super new movies are a lot of bang bang, not a lot of sci-fi. And so Lee Edwards came in and said, TNG, meaning the next generation, but pick maybe a very self-contained episode that's exciting and pretty representative of the series. So he mentions a few: The Measure of a Man, The Drumhead, Cause and Effect, Tin Men, The Game, Darmok, The Inner Light, Hollow Pursuits, Booby Trap, Elementary, Dear Data, and Ship in a Bottle. So I kind of recently finished going through those, and then just overnight I watched the one Star Trek The Next Generation episode, Who Watches the Watchers?
Oh.
So they actually have one. When I search it, that's what I get at the top of Google. I don't know if that's customized to me because all my data is flying around the internet. My Netflix data is personalizing my Google.
Yeah. Huh.
Oh wow!
I might make a highlight of some of our things right now.
It's actually mentioned in the Quis Custodiet Ipsos Custodes. Did I say that kind of right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually reference who polices the police in response to the George Floyd protest. This is on the Wikipedia article.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna make a highlight real quick.
Cool. There's another one. Is now good, or are you busy? You're busy making highlights.
No, I was just making this highlight.
Can I share something, or
Yeah.
you're tied up right now?
No, go for it.
So in the same vein as Spoonbill, there's an account that I recently learned about that I've been following now, and it's called Big Tech Alert. Have you heard of it?
Big Tech Alert. Yeah, I think I have.
So it's follow what the CEOs and other high executives from big tech companies do on Twitter. I guess inspired by @Trump's Alert, which I wasn't familiar with. But like for example, 13 seconds ago, Boom Arrow is now following IDEO. So when you see stuff like that happen, Boom Arrow is now following TCE B62, who's author of Change by Design and executive chair of IDEO. So you get a little bit of flavor into what is on, what's top of people's minds.
Yeah.
Like somehow maybe Boom and IDEO are going to do a session or something, or do something together.
That's really interesting, actually.
I'm looking through to see. Because like all this data is out there in public, and it'd be really hard to kind of, to figure this all out. But it's all very similar available stuff, but stuff that doesn't show up necessarily, and this I can pull out some interesting bits.
Yeah.
Oh, they also do bio updates. I'm not sure if they frequently do this, but
Just the Twitter account, or is it linked to a service or something?
so it looks like this big tech alert account. I just shared a link. Updated bio of @vness. So presumably @vness is like a person. I guess this person imagining the future at TikTok, X, YouTube, and Google. Builder, foodie, roller coaster rider, startup advisor, coffee first. So big tech alert is presumably, I don't know if they're running it off of Spoonbill or somebody else, but they publish a tweet saying updated bio of this person imagining the future that I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of, maybe they sort of do Spoonbill for, the big accounts.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of signal in that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
There's also these bots that I think similarly surface some signal that might otherwise get buried in the platform. There's one called Raboy Likes.
Oh my god.
You can guess what that does.
Oh my god.
I think there might also be a Naval Likes. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna finish this highlight real quick. I'll link the. Okay, I made our first live highlight, clipping together a
Cool.
bunch of different things. It's
First
downloading.
one meaning the other ones you made before. I thought you've done these before during the sessions, right?
Yeah. But this one was like several clips that I just like mashed together and
Oh,
just
you
ripped.
assembled it all together.
Yeah. Let's see how it comes out. I'll text it to you when it finishes.
Oh,
But
okay.
thank you for your patience. I just wanted to
Sure.
try doing it and like maybe posting it live.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, I was over here curating
Ooh, wow. A lot
a
happened
bunch
here.
of new links. Yeah. So after, I think you saw Naval likes, and then everything after that is new. Basically, what I was
Okay.
doing is I was going through. So Amjad Masad is the creator of Replit,
Yeah.
and I was going through. I forget how I landed on it, but I was going through his feed on Twitter because I feel like he's one that he kind of works on a very, you could consider it like a very, it's like a almost like a very technical nerdy tool, but it's more like a toy in the good sense. It's a fun, easy, accessible intro to programming.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like accessible the way something like I don't know, like a social media tool might be, like Instagram. But I think he's an interesting character because he's like an infrastructure engineer, but he's making, coding as a kind of a platform,
Yeah.
part of the web in a way that we've never seen before. And I think it's nice that it's so simplified that it's sort of accessible to anybody, like literally fire up a browser and you've got it
Mm-hmm.
in the browser. I think it's a very powerful idea. And then he's like, interesting tweeter, and we got to hang out with him the other day in Pluto when we were hanging out in Pluto, and so I got to chat with him there, and that was fun. So I was going through some of his recent tweets, and I think one of them is this one that in kind of the oldest first order from the ones that I shared, which would be newest first order, the way they're rendered on Twitter. But existing in your customer communities is much better than formal user research. It's the difference between living in a country to learn the language versus reading a book. As you can see, this discussion he's having where, one of the customers or users of Replit is saying, in deciding how to evolve Replit, what part do you do a roadmap, user feedback, market and user research, and other inputs play? And Amjad said, projects at Replit emerge organically. They almost always start out as, it would be cool if discussions. We, of course, have a North Star and have metrics and business goals we want to hit, but the rest of it is the result of countless conversations, prototypes, and demos. User feedback and research is embedded in everything we do. Just being in the community, here, Talk, Discord, Twitter, Facebook for teachers, etc., allows us to absorb the pain points and wants and needs of customers. I think that's a much better approach than a formal process. It's the difference between living in a country to learn the language and culture versus reading about it in a book. So I like that. I like that sentiment because I think it's almost like our OnlyFans discussion. Instead of doing kind of the more formal, historical, formal, panel survey type things, you kind of like insert yourself where the action is, where the organic kind of action already is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great example of him doing that and sort of describing the process and how that works for him.
Mm-hmm.
Next one, he says, once you realize how achievable order of magnitude outcomes, you naturally get more ambitious and optimistic. This is one I think that is very true, and it's really hard to internalize because the order of magnitude outcomes don't take substantially more input than you might otherwise contribute, but you just have much better outcomes if you kind of work on the right thing at the right time and kind of work on the very ambitious potential scale of these things, especially because technology has that natural scaling opportunity to it. But I think we as humans, this is commonly referred as, we have a hard time imagining exponentials or understanding them. Even if we look at charts and think about it hard, so much of our life is lived in like a linear world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you wake up at a certain time and then you go hunting or you go to the grocery or however you acquire your food, but everything kind of happens, we're sort of oriented around a linear life that may span 60, 80, 100 years. And the idea of exponentials, no matter how much we study them in math or try to think about them or reason them, developing really good intuition around it is incredibly hard. And I almost feel like the only way to really start to get good at it is to, see it a bunch and be shocked each time and then be like, okay, I guess it's possible.
Yeah. Has that happened to you?
Yeah, I think on a number of occasions, I've been fortunate to have some sort of front row seat to watching exponentials happen in technology. Maybe the first one would have been when I was at Google. Kind of went from being just a search engine to like everything on the web, and seeing how big the purview of what you hope to achieve can be when you have something that's kind of a really great starting point, and then you sort of give yourself the ability to dream bigger and cast a wider net. And I think that was like a cultural thing, I'd say, at Google around that time, which is like, no matter what you're working on, anybody around you is always asking, well, how do you make it an order of magnitude bigger? And how do you like make it an order of magnitude cheaper? Or how do you, sort of everything was talking about orders of magnitude versus, like 20% improvements. And so I think if you, even if you start trying to think about order of magnitude improvement and then you come and present that, then somebody's going to ask you, okay, well, what's an order of magnitude bigger on that idea?
Oh, wow.
So it's a little bit of like, even if you think you've already done that thinking, there's still more people to push harder on that concept.
Yeah.
And so I think when you bake that into like just the culture of how people think, I think it helps people see that. And it certainly has happened. Google's several orders of magnitude larger these days. I saw some of it, not all of it up close, but yeah, I think seeing these things happen is I think the only way to really build good instincts, and even then they're weaker instincts than you'd hope you could achieve. I just think our human minds are just are just not suited for it, so we really have to like stretch them and exercise them in that way so that we can build those intuitions and develop them.
I wonder what it was for Amjad.
My guess is
every founder has a couple of moments.
My guess is a big part of it is that I think he's experiencing it right now. Not to say he couldn't or wouldn't have done it before, or couldn't have, come with that same claim before, but I thought Paul Graham may have tweeted like the Replit.
Oh yeah,
the Replit graph that we looked at the other day, which is, that is compounding. That is what compounding looks like. I just shared the photo from Twitter that you can see 2015, 2016, that kind of whole 2015 year looks like a flat year. But actually, what's strange about looking at these charts is let me ask you, do you think you're looking at the chart, the graph from the Paul Graham tweet?
Yeah.
So imagine you are working on Replit in 2015 to 2016. Do you feel like you would naturally feel like giving up?
Well, I think there's a difference between feeling like giving up and just not like, what am I trying to say? I think there's a difference between feeling like giving up and not realizing the full potential of what your business could become, and the decisions you make in either case, like it's going to be kind of like a stable cash flow, blah, blah, blah. Like it can do great things, but not the order of magnitude thinking that you were just referring to. That's kind of the more interesting distinction in my mind, because I feel like this story of like, oh, founders don't give up, like it's going to be tough in the beginning, like that's been told over and over. So I feel like people have almost internalized that at this point, like, all right, I shouldn't give up. But then there's still such a big difference between just like how big do you dream kind of, and like how does that affect the decisions you make at an early point that might then have cascading repercussions. Right. So that's what I'm saying, like makes you better at like setting yourself up for exponential growth in the beginning.
Right.
Does
Okay. I would agree with everything you said, but I think the reason I asked the question was a little bit different, which is to say, when we look at that chart today, it looks like 2015 would have been like a frustrating time to be working on Replit.
Yeah.
But if you zoom into 2015, it probably is a nearly similar graph.
Yeah. That's true. At that scale, like it would still
Yeah.
look like
So I have
yeah.
a good friend of mine who works on a business. I don't want to name what it is, but for I think the first year or so was extremely challenging, and they had no idea how they were going to make it work, and it was really like super haphazard fits and starts.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of figured it out, and I don't know if it was in like the second year or something, but he would send me these like charts that basically look like this. And he's like, I'm going to send you the same chart, next quarter, next year, but it's just going to have a different axis, different Y and different X, but like it's going to be the same chart.
Yeah.
And it's basically true. He basically sends me the same chart. He said, just keep sending me the same chart with different axes. And that's what it looks like. So if you were to look at that business during the 2015 to 2016 time period, my guess is it is, very similar exponential chart, which is just like further illustration that we have, even when we know it, we just like, you look at it and it looks flat and dead.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there are like the business I'm referring to, I think, their first year was super challenging and they really didn't know how they were going to make it work. And I think there are cases that are publicly discussed, like I think Airbnb is publicly discussed around having like very linear, haphazard, fits and starts without any real confidence that it was going to be something. And I think it'd be, rational at some point to decide that you're not going to pursue that if you can't figure out how to, make it work. But I think the idea that I was trying to focus on is that I think we just really have a tough time internalizing it, no matter how much we stretch to try to internalize it.
Yeah, that's true.
Should we keep going through the Amjad tweets?
Yeah. Oh, and this video is done. Let's see how it came out. I started with the budgies.
Oh, geez.
It's sexy. Let's watch it. I can.
Wait, you did? Is it on Signal? I don't think I got it. Maybe it's still uploading.
Did you get it?
Nope. Oh, I just got an indication that it's downloading now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now I think I have it, so I can watch it. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, it looks great.
Where do I put it? Should I put it on our, like, just retweet our thing and put it on highlighter, or should I reply to her tweet, or should I change my bio with the link to the video?
Change your what?
Change my bio with a link to our.
Oh.
So she tweeted it, then Nathan tweeted it, retweeted it.
We're talking about so this video you're thinking about as a reply to something, or?
Yeah, should it be a reply, or should it be a highlight, or something else?
I guess I guess it's sort of relevant to the this crafts piece that we're reading, but I don't know. I don't know if there's like a good spot within the crafts tweet storm to, where it's relevant, or maybe it's just something we want to do. Maybe we just want to do it as a top level tweet, with our own, thinking on that.
Yeah, I can do that. I can retweet her tweet where she posted it, and then do it like our lunch break way.
Mm-hmm.
Were there what were these other tweets that you had on the side?
Oh, I had one from another one from Amjad. These are kind of all Amjad with a little program color on Amjad. Goodbye SF, it's been real. So they had tweeted that they were going to the cloud, and now he's saying not going to another city because cities are deprecated. Will ostensibly stay in a more chill and sunny area in Cali, but will also be moving around the globe a bunch. So it's kind of a little bit of a follow-up. What's that?
What did cities are deprecated mean?
The term deprecated is usually used in programming to kind of say like an API that is no longer supported. So he's, I think, using like programming speech to kind of say that cities are no longer, first class support the way they might be, the way they might have been expected before. It's not really, maybe the API for humanity is no longer connecting through cities. So deprecated doesn't mean it's turned off. It just means it's like not supported. It may go away soon. So kind of, change your dependencies because this API may go away.
Okay. How much truth do you think there?
Well, you tell me. You've been kind of living the city's deprecated lifestyle, haven't you?
I have, but that's kind of just because COVID is raging on. So if I had to think about where to have a multi-year lease or something, I probably would not be in the middle of Oahu.
Where, as of today, everything you know, where would you be?
I think I'd go back to New York.
Mm-hmm. Like New York City?
New York is the best city. Yeah.
In the city itself, like you get like what do you have neighborhoods in mind, or what would your life look like?
Yeah, maybe somewhere in Brooklyn, or just not Midtown, or I don't know, somewhere where it seems like slightly more kind of young people out of college working on things.
Mm-hmm.
But I always thought that's kind of the SF vibe. It was cool to hear Ayush talking about his hacker house and stuff. Like that sounds like a really great vibe.
Yeah.
But with all of the, maybe I'm just reading too much SF negativity these days, but everyone's like, it's drained and like everyone interesting is gone and just move to LA if you're moving to California or something.
Right.
So,
I think Ayush told me because he was coming here to kind of connect with more of the SF scene, and I asked him the other day, and he's like, "Yeah, he's like, you're like the only person I know here. Like, he has a few other friends, but he's like, yeah, we don't really know a lot of other people around here yet."
yeah.
Meaning they have plenty of other people they're working with. I think like in LA or Utah or other places, but
Yeah.
so yeah, I think a lot of it depends on you know life stage and what kinds of people and communities you're trying to connect with and stuff. But
Yeah.
I don't know if Replit is going to be a globally distributed organization, and you can kind of be wherever you want. It doesn't seem like San Francisco is. I mean, I'm sure he's very inward focused on building the team and company and business, and so probably as long as he has an internet connection, he can do that pretty effectively.
Mhm.
So I think probably maybe if it were 5 years ago, like it really would have been important, probably was important for him to be here in San Francisco. But I think that's both the time we're in right now as well as his more 5 years advanced state of the business with things appear to be going well, probably frees up a lot of that otherwise potential requirement or advantage that you might get.
Yeah.
I had another one from this list that I thought was good. The Paul Graham one. I love how friendly Replit and Mighty are to one another. One day they will divide the world between them. I thought that was an interesting concept because are you familiar with Mighty?
I'm not really. No, I've only kind of heard of Suhail in the context of Shipping Friday.
Oh yeah. So I've not used Mighty, so I can't actually comment. But my understanding is they're building like a Chrome browsing experience, which is running remotely, and so you're only seeing like the local version of it, and you can still use it as if it's a local app, but it runs on their own servers and infrastructure. And so, a lot of people complain that like browsers have gotten clunky and slow and they're hard to use. And if you push all kinds of logic and compute to a local computer like a client,
Mm-hmm.
of course you have to deal with upgrade cycles and making sure that you're using the latest version of all these things. And the computer is going to be old 3 years from now. Whereas if your main compute is being done in a server situation and you're just sort of exposed to the UI that you need to accomplish things, that can actually change the game for like how CPU, your needs for a new CPU to locally carry around with you to New Jersey, New York, Hawaii, whatever. And you always have the latest stuff. They upgrade their servers, you get the latest compute. You don't need to kind of constantly be carrying that with you. So this idea has been popular for like decades, and I think we saw like a pretty the hardest place to do this would be in video games, because there's such a like real time multiplayer real time games have the hardest requirement because you have to get everybody's controls both like captured as well as rebroadcast and all of the graphics rendered and pushed out. And you have to do all of that real time. So Google had this project called Stadia that I think has been through a few different phases of evolution. I have used it. It's pretty good. It's pretty impressive what they can accomplish. But instead of having like a PlayStation or a Xbox in your home where all the compute lives there, you just have like a Stadia controller which has Wi-Fi, and it connects to a Google data center where all of the graphics get rendered and all of the controls and interactions and the gameplay occurs there, and then you just see the output of that rendering. So in a sense, doing this in the video game world is like the most ambitious possible context for it. And I think it's like generally good, but probably a hardcore gamer would say it's subpar in several ways. But I think for browsers, you both reach like a more accessible. I mean, more people use web browsers probably than play video games. And I mean, not to trivialize, video games are huge. Like huge fraction of the population plays video games. But I think web browsers is probably at least an order of magnitude more even.
Mm-hmm.
And the web browser thing, it's probably achievable to make something like an order of magnitude improvement. And you don't have quite the same real-time requirements in most web applications as you would in like video games. So it's an interesting idea to like say, could you remote all the compute from the web browser to be a server side thing, basically move everybody to effectively lightweight thin clients that only render this view into a browser that's running remotely. And then if you're mostly living your life in a browser, why not? So I think Paul Graham's point is I'm kind of dividing the world, because Replit is this like development environment where software gets built, and then Mighty is like this new form of browser where web software gets run. And so he's kind of saying they kind of divide the world because one is the building of the stuff to be used in the other is consuming the stuff that's built in the one.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we should get invites to Mighty app. Seems like an interesting concept. I'm actually curious how Highlighter would run in Mighty, because I think it's based on Chrome. So ideally it should mostly work well, but we're probably one of the more challenging types of applications to run, because it's more closer to a video game than like a spreadsheet, say.
Yeah.
National Pizza Day? That's a promoted trend. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I'm getting a Lunchables ad on our Highlighter Twitter.
Oh no. They really don't have you figured out, do they?
I'm like the prissiest eater there is. Coors Light is my next ad.
Is your what?
What is the next one?
Oh no. So are those highlights still uploading now?
So I posted one of them. I retweeted Fadeke, who's the author. I retweeted her with the little thing that we made. Oh, Twitter posted earnings today.
How did that go? Up 4% in the aftermarket? 4.3?
Oops.
Top estimates, but user growth falls short.
Sorry, I just have too many things open.
Twitter posted earnings. Beat on EPS. 192 million DAUs.
And here's another Packy-like prediction.
Is this Sweaty Startup?
Yeah, I posted in chat. Did you see his comment on that?
So my hot, ignorant take on Twitter from Nick Huber. Jack will be replaced. New CEO will make plan to charge folks like me $1,000 a month to use the service, which we'd gladly pay to reach 100,000 people per tweet. The stock will go to the moon. Review in space is also going to be hits. I'm a bull. Yeah, I don't know. I know there's been some like activist shareholder discussion going on with Twitter, and I don't know how much of that is like, sensationalist stories that get told, or how much of that is reality. But I think yeah, so I wouldn't weigh on, the kind of like CEO change or kind of such a dramatic change of service. But I think some people believe you can just like throw on $1,000 charge and like doesn't disrupt the rest of the system. And I think there's like a delicate balance of how creation works and how consumption works, and the motivations of different creators of different scale and different consumers. So some of these hot takes that are sort of like blunt instrument ideas. I don't know if they're saying it just to sort of cause a reaction, or if they actually believe that there's a simple change like that can really make it work.
Yeah, that was Baki's criticism of the other guy, right? What's his name? Here's the Paki one again.
This is from yesterday's.
Yeah, that seemed to be some of his criticism of the Scott Galloway way.
Oh yeah. I like the line. Historically, the prof calling something terrible has been a buy signal. The prof has made a name for himself by being loudly bearish on all sorts of tech or tech-adjacent companies and getting his calls wrong at an incredible rate.
Wait, what was the historically? Where's that?
The prof. So this is in Prof G versus Twitter. Here I just highlighted it, or I'll add a comment here in the sheet or in the doc. And Julie Young created the anti-Galloway portfolio.
That's hilarious. How'd it do?
I guess the portfolio was up 61%. And I think she makes an exclusion of Tesla just to make a further point, because somebody may say, oh, Tesla's such an outlier, that's unfair. And if you exclude Tesla, it's still up 23% compared to the S&P up 5.5%. So she said, I just ran the math on this. If he had taken a long position in all the public companies he was bearish on, he would have returned 61.5% versus S&P 5.5%. Yeah, he's got some strange beliefs.
Trying to find where we were yesterday.
Check out this one from Galloway. So he's saying overvalued. This was October of 2019. Overvalued unicorns: Pinterest, Snap, Twitter, Peloton, Slack, DoorDash, Lime, Palantir, Uber, Compass will lose 80% or disappear. Tesla, WeWork, Robinhood, Lyft, Oyo. I mean, there are certainly. I mean, WeWork was a phenomenal loser from that group. So he's yeah. So if you take a portfolio of things, you can find things he is right about. But the opposite thinking should be used, which is take a portfolio, assume you'll be wrong about some things and they shouldn't have been invested in, but do the winners have outsized returns that pay for the failures? And he doesn't seem to approach the world that way.
What do you think about Twitter winning the newsletter wars? I saw someone else writing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think The discussion we're having yesterday is interesting. Is if Twitter could like expand their profile to be like that, almost like the About Me hub, where you're like, okay, here's where I point to my newsletter. Here's where I point to my, I don't know, my whatever else. Here's my Pinterest, and here's my Snap, and here's the hub of where I do everything. Here's my Patreon. So then here's the hub of where I do everything. Here's me in all those places. And if you want to subscribe to me here or in those places, then, you can do that. Like you're the payment hub for that. So you can connect identities, profiles, and payments. I think if you sort of connect all of those as Twitter, I think you have a lot of opportunity to then like create a differentiated newsletter offering or create, whether you're partnering initially or kind of building as first party. I think you can build like much more differentiated things. There's network effects to having payments on file. So I think there's a bull case for Twitter for sure, but with the right kind of execution focus, and I'm sure it's not an easy business to run, but you don't see a lot of like. I think it's hard to see, some of why they make the decisions they make, even if they have like good intentions, but I'm sure they're juggling a lot of complexity.
If you were the lead PM of Substack, would you change anything after you heard that Twitter acquired Review?
I'm not sure that it's like super relevant to meaning like you're kind of playing a different game. Like you may be playing the winning hand or you may be playing the losing hand. Maybe you should shift the game you're playing, but I don't think you can like play Twitter's game. Like Twitter's coming with a unique set of assets, and that's both like, that's the wind at their sails and the wind at their sails, kind of from both, the headwinds and the tailwinds. So yeah, what do you actually do? I mean, I think you want to try to understand how Twitter would likely integrate it and how attractive that will be to the current set of creators that you're serving. So is it going to be like a differentiated offering that Twitter creates through Review that makes it easier to sign up for newsletters, or makes it easier to distribute newsletters, or makes it easier to pay for newsletters if you do it with the Twitter integrated way? And I think one could certainly imagine, I think if Twitter like deeply cared about that one problem, they could probably do a great job of it. But I think, Twitter is probably balancing like, lots of different priorities. And so can Twitter, balance the priorities of like, if they want to just like, if they saw, Review as the future of Twitter, I think they could really build something differentiated. If it's like one of an ecosystem of bets and experiences and stuff, I think it's tough to have the same kind of focus that Substack has, because Substack is like live or die by making this work. And so they can kind of,
right.
They can really deeply serve their creators for that one use case well. And yeah. I think I'm sure they have more internal visibility into what their newsletter writers want than, I would have, not being the lead PM for Substack. But my guess is there's tons of, whether it's analytics or community tools or different payment mechanisms and offerings. My guess is they have like lots of visibility into what those look like. And then I think they also have visibility into, it's not like a creator is a creator is a creator. There's probably like, at least half a dozen, if not more, dozens of profiles of creators. Like this is a hobbyist who is kind of going to see how it works, and they're not really focused on it, but they could become focused on it later. this is somebody who's like leaving their job at the Wall Street Journal because they want to make this their career, and they've already built an audience, and now they're monetizing it, and they're kind of thinking it as a kind of a salary replacement compared to their old media job. And my guess is like there's just really different needs that each of those personas would have. And so, I think some of the stuff like what, Nathan is doing with Every may be more broadly useful outside of just his bundling community, but might be good platform features. So take the example I was referring to the person who's trying to make a career from old media and transition to kind of owning their audience and monetizing directly. And I think one of the nice things that Nathan does with Every is he creates, in that org, creates some stability for writers so that it's not this kind of publish or perish, get something out regardless of quality, but there's a lot more space to like, you don't have, it's not this kind of hamster wheel that, publishing can become, and you can really like do deeper, more thoughtful pieces.
You're in academia.
Yeah.
Have job security and then write good stuff.
Yeah. So imagine like a future, maybe, and again, this is, me just kind of armchair spitballing, but imagine you have like dozens or hundreds of people who have left or are leaving old media jobs to do this. Can you create an offering are you familiar with this company, Even?
No.
So Even does this concept for, I think, like on demand, like an Uber driver. And they look at, I think, all of your kind of pay history. It's even.com. They look at your pay history and they say, okay, based on this pay history, we're going to give you like an kind of a less volatility on your earnings and more evenness. So it might mean this week you get a little bit of cash up front. Next week you're a little bit over, but they even out your thing because if you have like, reliable expenses and housing and food and childcare, you don't have to be exposed to the volatility of like, oh, my car broke down, or I have to take care of a sick relative, and so I can't work how much I normally do this week, but I'll make it up next week. Like that idea isn't well served by like the pure on-demand kind of platforms. And so as it relates to Substack, maybe Substack could create an even like product for Substack writers where it's like, okay, you have, X number of subs paying you Y per month. Obviously people will churn out if you don't, publish on the frequency that you committed to.
And they sort of are building in like guardrails like that, like giving people advances in order to work on their newsletters and build up an audience. And I think they seem like usually individually negotiated with the person, but in kind of trading some sort of revenue cut when the thing starts generating, which is above the 10%, or like the legal help that they're building in, or other things like this. Yeah. So maybe it'll end up being like more if you want to seriously work on your newsletter and kind of have this be your profession and have a bunch of help with the like web side of things and legal and get an advance and like more in the publishing model, like Substack is the way to go. If you're just kind of like, I'm a scrappy person, I started a newsletter and I have a bunch of Twitter audience, and maybe you just do it on Twitter and it's like a side thing for you. Maybe it's just the easiest way to get started.
Right. Yeah, I think the places where you can go deep, almost, we talked the other day about like back integrating. I think the stuff you're talking about to me sounds like back integrating into the work life cycle of these writers. So, can you get deeper at serving their needs? I mean, first figure out who you're trying to serve most effectively, or what are the archetypes of kind of, call it customer or creator type, that you want to serve or focus on. Maybe Twitter will be these like, you have the idea to start a newsletter, you start it on Twitter, maybe Twitter doesn't do kind of the full email ownership direct relationship that Substack provides, but maybe they actually, help you build audience faster. So it's kind of the trade of like, do I value the audience or do I value the direct relationship? And I think it's very reasonable for different people to value different parts of that differently.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think I wouldn't say like, oh, review being owned by Twitter is all of a sudden like death knell for Substack. Not at all. I think it just sort of shows that Twitter's aware of the importance of this. I think Medium launched a Substack like newsletter feature. So I think there's just like more and more awareness that this is an interesting format of creation and audience assembly and monetization. And so I think everybody's got to get deeper on serving their stuff.
Yeah. I linked the post that Hamish wrote.
Did you link it here in chat?
Announcement? Yeah. Oh, it rendered weird, like t.co, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I see. Welcome Facebook and Twitter, seriously. Okay. Do you know that meme? That's like a meme, right?
No.
The seriously meme? That's like from, I think Apple originally took out like an ad in the Wall Street Journal like 30 years ago or something. Welcome IBM, seriously, or something.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
I think. Yeah, so this was 37 years ago, but that was published in 2018. Yeah, welcome IBM, seriously. Welcome to the most exciting and important marketplace since the computer revolution began 35 years ago. And congratulations on your first personal computer. Putting real computer power in the hands of the individual is already improving the way people work, think, learn, communicate, and spend their leisure hours. Computer literacy is fast becoming as fundamental a skill as reading and writing. When we invented the first personal computer system, we estimated that over 140 million people worldwide could justify the purchase of one if only they understood its benefits. So it goes on and on. It says, because what we are doing is increasing social capital by enhancing individual productivity. Welcome to the task, Apple.
Nice.
So this is, and then there was another famous, I think it was a Welcome Facebook, seriously, that Snap published, if I recall correctly. Snapchat CEO on Poke. Welcome Facebook, seriously. So here's the Snap version of the same. Okay, so sorry, I got diverted on the little history of what this, what he's actually saying there is.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I had no idea.
Okay, when Twitter announced it acquired the email newsletter.
Facebook is also getting into paid newsletters. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, is that right? I hadn't even heard of that.
He just, it's like just lower in the article.
Exxon announces solar energy project. I've never met him, but he sounds funny.
Yeah.
Hey, Mitch. Yeah, I like this point. I'll post this quote. However, we at Substack have never thought that the solution lies in simply shouting about how engagement-based business models lead to media products that are superficially compelling, but underneath are eroding the foundation of society. Instead, we have set out to show that platforms that put writers and readers in charge are just better.
Yeah. That's true, actually. A lot of the people who are kind of tweeting about, oh, the newsletter wars are going to be won by Twitter are not really thinking about the underlying business models of these kind of newsletter copycat integrations, how different that will be for discovery and promotion of content for writers.
Mm-hmm. I think also every time, a platform grows up being good at something, but then when they try to sort of be good at everything, they end up compromising on the thing they're good at. It's hard to really, I think focus really matters. Like you look at Instagram today, for all its success as a photo app, also became a video app, is now a shopping app, also has stories and also has reels, and is like a TikTok competitor and a Snap competitor, while also being, I think there's like a dozen things it does, and I still trip myself up when I go in the app. I can't figure out where the create button is or where my notifications are. I have to relearn that. So, all the distribution of the world doesn't necessarily, help you focus the use case.
Yeah.
Kind of is at odds with it in a sense. I like it though. I like how they're pushing, they're waking up the world to the importance of these like direct relationships. I think if it pushes the bigger platforms to become aware of this and to try to adapt and to try to reshape their business models, I think it'll be, good for society as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think there's plenty of space for, Substack to be successful, even if Facebook and Twitter get into the business.
Yeah.
They had a really good, actually, I know we're almost a couple hours in now, so might suggest we wrap shortly, but it reminded me too of, you see Substack did a great piece of writing on kind of like content policy. December 22nd.
The older one, like the kind of federalist approach.
Yeah, this was shared December 22nd. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I think it's the very best stuff I've seen where people come out and talk about content moderation, like very opinionated, well considered, well articulated.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. So, anything else that you're thinking about we should jam on today?
No, covered a lot.
Okay. I have only had one piece of mango. I've had my mango sitting here. I didn't take my lunch break.
Go have a real lunch.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, talk to you later.